Hello and welcome to Mansell Kart Racing Club on the 26th of March 2023 as we're on our way to the grid for the final of the Blue Challenge Round 2. A bit of rain early in the day did spice things up a little bit, but it's all dried up for the final, so time to see what we have in store. Earlier in the day the Honda Cadet Championship was out and it was Devon Giles both starting and finishing as the highest registered driver. Likewise, Alfie Lenton out in the Junior Blues, taking a uncontested win, but good news for the Junior Blue class is Rudy Winslow Morton is returning for the O-Plate, so that'll be interesting in a few weeks. In the Blue Challenge, after round 1, it's Harry Smithson leading the way ahead of Tom Parker and Joey Foster. Scott Lay in 4th ahead of Anthony Cleal, with Mike Bell 6th ahead of David Waldron, Nigel Vickery, Max Gunter and Alex Kemp rounding out the top 10. Rob Mortimer in behind ahead of Mitch Carpenter, Paul Alexander, Kevin O'Neill and Anthony Lee making up the top 15. Still very early doors in the championship, everyone's still separated on a drop option alone, so we will find out where everyone truly stands after this race. In the Blue Masters standings, it's tight at the top with Joey Foster and Anthony Cleal sharing the lead on 2 points apiece. David Waldron and Nigel Vickery in behind with 7 apiece ahead of Alex Kemp making up the top 5. Rob Mortimer 6th ahead of Paul Alexander, Anthony Lee, Kevin O'Neill, Steve Groves making up the top 10 ahead of John Hartshorn, Paul Wheeler and Ron Schoen after Lid. Still plenty of drivers yet to get off the mark. And in the Blue Veteran standings, Anthony Cleal leading the way with David Waldron and Nigel Vickery close in behind. Rob Mortimer 4th ahead of Paul Alexander, Kevin O'Neill, Steve Groves, John Hartshorn, Paul Wheeler and Ron Schoen. And in the Blue Legends standings, it's Kevin O'Neill leading the way ahead of John Hartshorn and Ron Schoen. But plenty of legends making their start to the season this afternoon, so that will all chop and change. And in the Blue Top Weights, it was Tom Parker with a clean sweep at Lid ahead of David Waldron, Rob Mortimer and Ron Schoen, both starting and finishing in the same order, so 2 points separating all of them. In Heat 1 today, it was Dave Watts taking the win with the fastest lap ahead of Kevin Ford, Anthony Cleal 3rd ahead of Stuart Gray and Joey Foster, with Steve Groves 6th ahead of Nigel Vickery, Alex Kemp, Rob Mortimer and David Good to complete the top 10. Kevin O'Neill in behind ahead of Kieran Quirk, David Waldron, John Hartshorn and Chris Underhill to complete the top 15. In Heat 2 it was a return to Formula Blue for Toby Cook, bouncing back to take the win after a Heat 1 disqualification. Stuart Gray hot on his heels in 2nd ahead of Anthony Cleal and Dave Watts. Nigel Vickery making up the top 5, still within a second of the win. John Hartshorn 6th ahead of Joey Foster, Tom Parker, Steve Groves and Mike Bell to complete the top 10. David Waldron 11th ahead of Kevin Ford and Kieran Quirk. And in Heat 3 it was Dave Watts taking the win once again, up 12 spots ahead of Tom Parker. Anthony Cleal in 3rd ahead of Joey Foster and Stuart Gray, with David Waldron 6th with Kieran Quirk, Kevin Ford, Toby Cook and Mike Bell making up the top 10 in behind, ahead of Alex Kemp, Rob Mortimer, Max Gunter, David Good and Steve Groves. Those 3 heats in the book, they will set the grid for our final, and it is the O-Plate. Dave Watts leading the field out, Anthony Cleal joining him on the front row ahead of Stuart Gray and Joey Foster on row 2. Kevin Ford makes his start to the season in 5th spot ahead of Steve Groves, with David Waldron and Tom Parker all separated on tiebreak in behind. Nigel Vickery 9th ahead of Kieran Quirk to make up the top 10. Alex Kemp on row 6 with Toby Cook ahead of Rob Mortimer and Mike Bell. John Hartshorn 15th ahead of David Good, with Max Gunter, Chris Underhill, Ron Schoen and Alex Fortune completing the top 20. Mitch Carpenter 21st ahead of Paul Wheeler, Paul Alexander, a non-start for Kevin O'Neill due to a Heat 2 crash, and Robin Stones also unable to take the start. As we hop on board with Dave Watts round Hanger Bend leading the pack. Here's Paul Alexander further back. You can see how big the field is with the difference between Paul Alexander karts as far as the eye can see. But keep an eye on the O-Plate. Dave Watts and Anthony Cleal alongside. Look for the lights as they're going to cut through the chicane. And round 2 of the Blue Challenge is underway now, and it's a good start from Watts. He's stolen a length on Cleal, Gray's in there as well. David Waldron challenging on the inside, but down into turn 1. That looks like Gray slotting in ahead of Foster. Several 2 and 3 wides further back. That's Alex Fortune sliding wide. Mitch Carpenter up the inside of him and into the complex for the first time. That's Bell, Cook, Vickery, Kemp all in there together. Tom Parker, after an out of position start, down the middle of Alex Fortune and Ron Schoen, and then passing Chris Underhill as well. So Parker's got the bit between his teeth, moving up from the back. He's down through the loop for the first time. That's Paul Alexander now looking to challenge Ron Schoen as we hop on board with Paul Wheeler. And Alexander still has the overlap on the inside as they exit the loop, and Paul Alexander takes the place. But round Hanger Bend for the first time, it's Watts, Cleal, Gray, Foster, Ford, Waldron, and in behind is Kieran Quirk looking on the attack as they go into the chicane for the first time. It's Watts leading from Cleo Gray, and that's Foster in the wall. Joey Foster in the wall, and the final chicane as the pack thunders past. Steve Groves ahead, defending from Toby Cook. Max Gunter attacking Alex Kemp further back, and that's a hand up, and that's David Good pulling in as well. So 2 karts out already. Hopefully Foster's fine. That looked like a big impact, but the race carries on. That's Toby Cook ahead of Mike Bell. Max Gunter slotting in ahead of Alex Kemp further back. Paul Alexander making progress as well as the pack thunders through the loop. But it's still Dave Watts leading ahead of Anthony Cleal. Stuart Gray on the attack in third, and a gap now behind as we hop on board with Alex Kemp. Number 99 ahead of us is Max Gunter. Now we're on board with Paul Wheeler. Ron Schoen ahead of us and Alex Fortune ahead of him. They go up towards Hanger, but into the final chicane. That's Kieran Quirk down the inside against David Waldron. Good move there from Quirk, as you can see Foster's kart's already out of the way. So we're still green flag racing, and that's Toby Cook down the inside of Steve Groves into pit bend. Max Gunter looking at Mike Bell in behind. Looks like Bell's held him off. Further back, that's Tom Parker passing Rob Mortimer. Nigel Vickery in this fight as well on the back of Alex Kemp. John Hartshorn there in behind battling with Mitch Carpenter, and further back that is Alex Fortune still holding off Paul Wheeler as we hop on board with Rob Mortimer. Ahead of us is Nigel Vickery on the left, Tom Parker on the right. Parker up the inside, but Vickery hanging on. Vickery back up the inside now, and Parker hanging on around the outside there, wheel to wheel, and it's Tom Parker with the run on exit to take the place, as that's Anthony Cleal still holding off Stuart Gray for second and third as they go through the chicane. Kevin Ford now in fourth spot ahead of Kieran Quirk. Toby Cook on the back of David Waldron, and there you can see the damage to Joey Foster's car. It's a snapped stub axle. That's not a common one, but that will explain why the crash happened, as the pack now down through pit bend and into the complex. That's Mike Bell looking at Steve Groves in behind Alex Kemp and Max Gunter going wheel to wheel. Kemp trying to switch back on Gunter, and Tom Parker's got the switch back on Kemp. And it's going to be Parker at the inside of Alex Kemp at the end of the loop. Further back there, Chris Underhill attacking Mitch Carpenter, and Carpenter's going to run wide. Underhill going to cross back behind him and look down the inside. Nothing doing there as the leaders into the chicane once again. And Stuart Gray closing right up to that back bumper of Anthony Cleal. The Red Speed closing in on the Mac. Further back there, that's Cook closing in against David Waldron. Then there's Steve Groves, and we're on board with Mike Bell. Max Gunter and Tom Parker behind us, with Bell to the inside for pit bend. And a good move by the number 2 up the inside against Steve Groves. Bell coming from 14th on the grid after some poor heats. Tom Parker also going through, making progress there, passing Max Gunter. Parker with an out of position start, remember, so he's still fighting his way up back to his position, and that's a lot of smoke from Gunter. And that's a problem. It looks like the radiator's rubbing on the tyre, and that's going to be an end to Gunter's race as he's going to run wide, touching the wall there as Paul Alexander goes through, and Chris Underhill using that as an opportunity to launch an attack against Mitch Carpenter. Underhill makes the pass against Carpenter, and now Paul Alexander's the next on the attack. But down into the chicane we go. Tom Parker all over the back of Steve Groves. Groves all over the back of Bell. Bell trying to close in on Toby Cook, who's putting the pressure on David Waldron up ahead. Down into pit bend it goes at this group, as further back Nigel Vickery looking to challenge Alex Kemp. Then is Rob Mortimer being closed in on by John Hartshorn. Then into the complex, Waldron, Cook, Bell, Parker up the inside of Steve Groves, and Tom Parker makes the move. So karts 2, 3 and 4 now running in their numerical order. Further back, that's Alex Fortune with a big slide. Ron Schoen on the attack. Paul Wheeler in close company as well. What it says on Fortune's number plates, faster than Ron, and that's Ron up the inside. So Ron Schoen back up ahead of Alex Fortune, but Fortune's not going to let that place go without a fight, I'm sure. Now down into the chicane. Bell's caught Cook, but Parker's caught Bell at the same time. This pack closing in on each other. Further back there, that's Mitch Carpenter defending from Paul Alexander, as Alexander launches through the chicane and down the straight. Stuart Gray really hustling to try and take that second place off Anthony Cleal, meanwhile, as Dave Watts starting to break away. As in the foreground there, that's Parker looking for a big switch against Mike Bell, and he's got the overlap. Bell goes defensive, but Parker's up the inside, and he's made the move stick. Bell now trying to go back on the outside, nothing doing there. Steve Groves now closing in again, As we're on board with Paul Alexander, he's going to try and get up alongside Mitch Carpenter. And Carpenter's going to hold that inside line and defend his position against the number 9. But out of hanger goes this big pack that's lining up now behind Toby Cook. Tom Parker right on his bumper, Bell in there, Groves, Kemp and Vickery all in a line. Then there's Mortimer and Hartshorn. Meanwhile, back up towards the front, Stuart Gray still attacking Anthony Cleal. Dave Watts' gap seeming to hold consistent in the lead. Then there's Ford. Quirk starting to close in, it looks like, but he's got a long way to go as Toby Cook now runs wide and Tom Parker up the inside. Mike Bell looking to try and follow through. They're going to run 3 together up the back straight. Parker's made the place. Cook holds off Bell though. And Steve Groves now looking for the inside line, and he's going to do it on the exit of the loop. Groves up the inside against Bell as we're on board with Alex Kemp, who's in the box seats for this. As they go up towards hanger, Bell runs wide to try and get the run on Groves. Kemp trying to stick his nose in. Steve Groves looking at passing Toby Cook as well, and here comes Vickery now down the inside of Alex Kemp into the chicane. Brave move from the Welshman, he's made it stick though. Meanwhile, further back, Paul Alexander getting the run against Mitch Carpenter. And that's Mike Bell down the inside of Steve Groves into pit bend, so it's all kicking off on the long straight. As there's Parker now already trying to close in against David Waldron. And that's Vickery up the inside of Groves. And Kemp's in there as well, so it's all swapping places, and Alex Kemp's going to put a wheel on the grass on the way out. Steve Groves gets the run, and he's going to retake the place against Kemp, but Vickery goes through. Further back there, that's Alex Fortune's back ahead of Ron Schoen. Schoen trying to cut back underneath like he did a few laps ago. Fortune's wise to it and put the block on it, and here comes Paul Wheeler now round the outside. Nothing doing there though, but it's going to set him up for the inside line as they exit the loop, and Paul Wheeler makes the pass against Ron Schoen. Alex Fortune now his next target as the pack goes through the chicane. Mike Bell looking at Toby Cook. He's gone from a bit of a way back, but he's made it to the apex. Number 2 makes the move against number 41, but Toby Cook fighting back with the switchback, but he's on the wrong side for the complex. Bell down the inside, and he's going to hold that position. Cook looking for the cutback. Vickery in behind, Groves and Kemp still in battle as well, as Cook looking back down the inside of Mike Bell. Bell's going to hang on round the outside though, and Cook with nowhere to go. That's Stuart Gray having passed Anthony Cleal some time ago. Unfortunately we've missed that, but further back there's still battles going on as Paul Wheeler now defending from Ron Schoen. And that's a black and orange flag for someone, and the last lap board's out. That's Kevin Ford taking the last lap. And that looks like Tom Parker going down the pit lane, so it must be a meatball for Parker. That's going to promote everyone up a spot, including Nigel Vickery, who's not settling for 1. He's going for 2. He's past Toby Cook on the run down to pit bend. Good move there from Vickery as we're on board with Steve Groves watching it all play out. Now on board with Paul Wheeler. He's tucked up right behind Alex Fortune as they're going to take the last lap board. Groves looking for the move against Cook, and Alex Kemp switches back on him. Kemp passes Groves, but into the final corner of the race, it's Dave Watts. It's the O-plate out of the chicane to take victory of round 2 of the Blue Challenge. Good win from Dave Watts. Stuart Gray's going to be second ahead of Anthony Cleal, but plenty of racing still to go. That's Ron Schoen. He's made the move back against Paul Wheeler, so all chopping and changing. There's David Waldron defending thin air. Here comes Bell with Vickery on his tail, and Alex Kemp down the inside of Toby Cook into the final chicane. And Kemp's going to make the position, and he's going to be happy with that. That's his first top 10 finish for Alex Kemp, holding off Toby Cook and Steve Groves. And further back now, that's Ron Schoen having to go all the way to the white line, attacking Alex Fortune. Fortune's going to break late. Can Schoen get the run out on exit? No, he can't. Alex Fortune's going to hold off Ron Schoen and Paul Wheeler to complete a very interesting race. Lots of action all up and down the order. As you can see there, good respect shown between Fortune and Ron Schoen. And that will lead your results. Dave Watts, the winner by 2.8 seconds, taking the fastest lap en route, ahead of Stuart Gray, with Anthony Cleal making up the top 3. Kevin Ford a distant 4th ahead of Kieran Quirk. David Waldron in a lonely 6th ahead of Mike Bell, leading home Nigel Vickery, Alex Kemp, Toby Cook and Steve Groves, all within a second and a half. Rob Mortimer in 12th ahead of John Hartshorn, with Chris Underhill 14th and Paul Alexander making up the top 15. Mitch Carpenter 16th ahead of Alex Fortune, Ron Schoen and Paul Wheeler making up the finishers. Tom Parker coming in early with a mechanical flag. Max Gunter out in a ball of smoke. Likewise with Joey Foster and David Good out early. and what that'll do to the championship. Harry Smith's going to retain the lead on drop scores, but Dave Watts is going to tie him for second. Anthony Cleal in third. Tom Parker still retaining his fourth position ahead of Stuart Gray, so 3 of them tied on 5 points. Joey Foster 6th on 6 points ahead of Scott Lay and Kevin Ford. Mike Bell 9th, and David Waldron's going to complete the top 10 ahead of Kieran Quirk, Nigel Vickery, Steve Groves, Max Gunter and Alex Kemp. In the Blue Masters standings, it's now a 3-way tie on 2 points at the top of the table between Anthony Cleal, Joey Foster and Stuart Gray, ahead of a 3-way tie on 7 points between David Waldron, Nigel Vickery and Kevin Ford, making up the top 6, ahead of Alex Kemp, Steve Groves, Rob Mortimer and Paul Alexander to make up the top 10. Kevin O'Neill 11th, ahead of Anthony Lee, John Hartshorn, Chris Underhill and Paul Wheeler to complete the top 15. In the Blue Veteran standings, it's Anthony Cleal still leading the way. Stuart Gray 2 points behind, ahead of David Waldron and Nigel Vickery, with Kevin Ford rounding out the top 5. Rob Mortimer 6th, ahead of Steve Groves, Paul Alexander, Kevin O'Neill and John Hartshorn to complete the top 10. Paul Wheeler in behind, ahead of Ron Schoen, Chris Underhill, David Good and Robin Stoddart-Stones. And in the Blue Legends, it's Stuart Gray sweeping to the top of the table with a clean sweep on the day. Kevin O'Neill drops to second, ahead of John Hartshorn, Kevin Ford, Ron Schoen, Chris Underhill, David Good and Robin Stoddart-Stones complete the class. Still a few drivers yet to start on that one. And in the Blue Top Weights, it's David Waldron taking the win on the day ahead of Tom Parker to tie him at the top of the table. Rob Mortimer in at third ahead of Ron Schoen, so plenty of time left to go in the top weight standings as well. Thank you for Mansell Raceway for hosting us, and we will see you again in a couple of weeks back at Lid International Kart Club. We will see you then. Goodbye.
Good racing.
Happy.
Wait, get out of that chair, you lazy git.